Okay, so today I wanted to do a little practice, very short, just to introduce some restorative concepts. So it's basically going to be targeted at the spine. We're going to be using a blanket or a towel can work as well. And we're going to be laying still for a while with the blanket underneath our spine in different ways to give you different effects. Now, because we're going to be laying in these positions for a bit, you want to be as comfortable as possible. So if having a bolster or some pillows under your knees, or maybe a little bit of something in the curve of your neck or under your head, you're welcome to set these things up as needed. So maybe just have a couple extra things on hand just in case, but otherwise one blanket should suffice. So we are going to take our blanket and we are going to start by folding it up pretty narrow. I'm going to make a strip. You can also do a roll, but I'm going to do a strip that's even possibly a bit wide. So maybe I'll roll this a little bit here. Okay, so kind of like that. So we're going to start off with our head, spine, and pelvis all supported by the blanket. So you're going to get it lengthways on your mat, and we're going to sit at one end of it, line it up with your tailbone, bottom of your spine, and you're gradually going to lay yourself back. Now you can have your knees bent here. This might be where you want to have a bolster underneath your knees. And we're just going to lay back and let that roll along the spine, allow our rib cage to flare back, arms to come out to the side, shoulders to open, fall back towards the floor, and just let the chest be open. So we'll spend a few moments here tuning into your breath. Noticing where you might be holding tension in your body and just seeing if you can let that go. With every exhale, letting something new soften. And with every breath, noticing the rib cage expanding as you take in air and retracting as you take out air. And maybe as you go and things relax and soften, you'll feel the chest open a bit more, the rib cage fall back a little bit more. This is great for just countering that rolled forward desk posture that we all tend to spend a lot of time in. Whether you're literally at a desk or not, the world exists in front of us and we're always doing things with our arms in front of us. So it's very easy to get collapsed inward. We'll spend a few more breaths here. All right. Now, to get out of this position, we're not just going to sit right up. We're just going to start to let our body roll to one side of the rolled up blanket, come on to one side a bit more and use your hand to prop yourself up. We're going to start now to pull this roll down the mat. The idea is that we're going to get in a similar position, but this time the very top of the spine and your neck and head are going to be allowed to go down towards the floor. So this in particular is going to target that head forward posture that we all tend to get. So again, you're just lining yourself up as best as you can. The roll's still going up between the shoulder blades, but then as you lie back down, even if it's just a slight height difference, you'll notice that the upper shoulders, base of your neck, rest of your neck, and your head are all just a little more back. Now, if for some reason this is uncomfortable or causes dizziness for some reason, you can either go back to the first one we did, or you could take a separate towel and fold it up just a little bit thinner than the height of the roll that you're on, so that you still get a little bit of that backwards positioning, but not as drastic of a difference as I currently have it, spinal roll to floor. So again, your knees can be bent. If holding your legs up is feeling effortful, you can kind of spread your feet wide and let your knees knock in towards one another. So once again, returning to the breath. Feeling that rib cage expansion. Openness across the shoulders, which will feel stronger the more you have your arm out to the side like a cross. And right now, we're not playing with a massive spinal roll, but with time, as your body feels a little more supple and a little more receptive to moving in this direction, being in this positioning, you could play with thicker spinal rolls. But you want to be able to feel whatever height you choose. You want to be able to feel like the muscles in your back and your neck and your face are able to soften and relax. Your breathing is smooth and easy and full. If you're feeling your body sort of tensing against gravity or just holding something protectively, it might be a little too drastic of a position for your spine in this exact moment. And it would be worth just making that spinal strip a little bit skinnier so that you're not shocking your system. So we'll take a couple more breaths here. Again, noticing any tension in other areas of the body that maybe your mind doesn't first go to, like your jaw, around your eyes, your thighs, your fingers. All right. So once again, to come out of this, we're just going to let our body slide off the roll a little bit to one side, finding the floor, turning onto a side, and using the top hand to help yourself up to sit. We're now going to play with a different direction with the roll. So we've had it along the spine. Now we're going to go across the spine. So I'm just gonna clean up my roll a little bit here because I've kind of squished it. I'm really only worried about the section that I'm going to be laying across. And with this one, you might want to make the roll thinner than you did with the first. So I'll show you why that is. So I am going to keep mine a little thinner. I'm letting some of the blanket stay flat. I'm going to have it going across my mat. And I'm going to kind of just pick a spot higher up here. Try to think about what area of your spine sometimes feels the tightest, the most rolled inward. We're going to be introducing some back extension. So we just did back extension in this opening direction. Now we're doing it more in this direction. So I'm going to go kind of the bra band area of my back as best as I can. Line it up here. I'm going to lay back. And again, I've just got my feet a little wide, knees knocking in towards each other for some support. My arms can come out to the side. They can be wherever is comfortable for you. The reason we have the roll a little thinner for this one is because when it was all the way along your whole spine, that height was distributed across a lot of smaller joints. And as one unit, they were elevated and everything else around them was falling back to the floor. In this position, because of the orientation of the roll, we're targeting just a couple of your spinal vertebrae at a time. And so it's a much more specific point of contact. And that's going to make it a little more intense, especially if you're in a particularly sticky, stiff part of your spine that really prefers being permaflexed, essentially. So this one is a good one to wade into. Start really small, see how it feels, breathe into it, move on with your practice, see how your body feels later that day. And then if everything was fine, it felt good, could maybe go a bit further, next time you give this a go, try rolling it up a little bit more. Sometimes you don't know how things are going to respond until later on. And so if you just dive in too deep too quickly and then you really wind up paying for it later, that kind of sucks. So just really take this one easy. It's much more specific. So again, like last time, you're just taking some nice full breaths, easy breaths, letting all the extra things relax and soften. And you're welcome to just shimmy yourself down or up, depending on where you are, to target a different area. If you feel like the roll has flattened underneath you a little bit, of course, get yourself onto your side a little bit up, roll it up tighter, and just as you lay down, aim for a different part of your spine. Now with this one, you could be here for quite a while if you chose to, if you choose to change where you have this roll crossing your spine multiple times. So if that's something that you want to pursue, you're more than welcome to do that another time. For now though, for the purposes of this video, we're going to move on to our next movement here. So I'm just going to get myself onto my side, get myself up. And we're going to return to something very similar to what we were doing before. So again, I'm just going to get my blanket rolled up a little tighter again. I'm going to use the full blanket to roll it up. But what we're going to do a little differently here is, once again, the head is going to come off the top of the roll. Actually, I'm going to fold this. I'll show you why we're going to fold this. I'm going to have this folded so it's more of a flat surface. The top part, I'm just going to fold it over one more time this way. So we have this height, but then we have this height. And then our upper shoulders and neck and head are going to be on the floor below this. So I'm just going to get this on my mat. I'm going to try and center myself in the frame a little better this time. And so I'm going to sit on my folded roll. I'm going to get an idea of where this is behind me. I'm aiming to have it land between my shoulder blades. And then my shoulders, nape of my neck, neck and head are just that much lower than they were before when we had our head and neck off the rolled towel. So this is just going to be a slightly stronger sensation. It's almost a combination of the two different ways we use the roll today. We've still got it going full length of the spine, letting the rib cage fall back, letting the head and shoulders and neck be lower than the spine as a whole. But then where we have it folded over at the top, we're giving that area between the shoulder blades just a little bit more height to target it a little more specifically, kind of like we did when we had the roll going across the spine. So again, you can play with heights with this over time, wade into it gradually, see how your spine's feeling later today, and then from there you can decide if maybe next time you make the fold a little bit thicker. But even doing the slightest of this is more than what we typically do in a day. So you don't have to go to extremes to get good results. I personally like to err on the side of staying a little small, especially since I tend to be working with people who are having either a lot of pain or they're healing from an injury or they've got some other stuff going on that we just really want to gauge how their body is going to respond. So you get to make that judgment for yourself at home today doing this practice. You know your body better than anybody else. It's always important to take your time, take it slow, and really tune in. So we'll take a few more breaths here. Letting the neck, the jaw, the muscles around the eyes all just soften. All right. So when you're ready, one last time, you can start to just tip your body off that roll a little bit, get yourself onto your side, use your hand to get yourself up. And we're just going to take this blanket, we're just going to fold it over a bit more, just to make a little seat. Okay? So we've got our hips up, sitting cross-legged if that's accessible to you. Otherwise, you could have your legs straight out front. Just take a moment to sit nice and tall. Notice how your spine is feeling, your neck. Maybe you feel a little lighter. Maybe you feel a little taller. And take a moment too to appreciate how sitting on the blanket brings your hips up a little higher relative to your knees. And if you're sitting towards the front edge of it, it lets your pelvis tilt forward, which allows your spine to remain nice and long and tall. It makes for sitting upright a much less effortful, strained experience. So just take a couple of grounding breaths here, noticing the differences in your spine and your breath and your shoulders. Alrighty, and when you're ready, you can start to open your eyes, give things a little wiggle. And thank you for your practicing with me today.